everybody, this is Krissy here, just saying hello right at the top to let you know that you should stick around to the very end of this one because we have an announcement from Krissy and Nathan, as well as a little bit of one 7-year-old's opinion of why Rocky IV is the best movie ever. So stick around all the way to the end of this super jam-packed episode. Hello and welcome to the Most Excellent 80s Movie Podcast on the Most Excellent Podcast Network. You're going to have to go with me on this one. It's the podcast where a filmmaker, a comedian, and an author montage their way through the 80s movies we love, dragging a log through the Russian snow the entire time, and while leaving the kids at home with a robot babysitter. This is episode 12, Rocky IV. Can we just call it that?
Yes.
Rocky IV, our movie selection from 1985.
Today, the Soviet Union has officially entered professional boxing.
This is not just an exhibition fight. This is us against them.
He would like to compete against anyone who is qualified.
Drago is the most perfectly trained athlete ever. Whatever he hits, he's strong.
He could have stopped the fight. He could have saved his best friend's life. I'll never forget you, Apollo. But now, the one thing he can't do is walk away.
Has the fight date been set yet?
December 25th.
Where?
It's in Russia. Are you nuts?
Miss Balboa, when will you be going to Russia?
I'm not going to Russia. I don't know what you're talking about.
He's had one professional fight, and one man is dead.
Tabibi, he's going to have to kill me.
Why can't you change your thinking?
Because I'm a fighter.
You can't win!
We managed to squeeze in one more montage.
The boxing gloves explode.
Uh-huh.
I wish they did that in real boxing. It would be more exciting.
At the very beginning, those look like really nice looking gloves too, like very well-crafted American boxing glove, Russian boxing glove, and they just do these big beauty shots of them turning, and it's like they probably spent like a quarter of the budget on those wonderful gloves that hit each other and then they just explode.
Kablooey!
It is the highlight of the movie at the very beginning.
And apparently they're both full of concrete. I don't know. I am Krissy Lenz, the comedian for this episode. Well, all the episodes, really.
So far.
The comedian, yeah. Of National Comedy Theater. And with me, as always, is...
I'm Nathan Blackwell. I'm the filmmaker with Squishy Studios.
And today, again, we have author...
Craig Michael Curtis.
Yes. Take that, other Craig Curtises.
Yes, the evil Craig Curtis.
The more successful author, Craig Curtis.
Screw that guy.
It's true. There's a slightly more successful author called Craig Normal Curtis.
But he has done none of these podcasts.
Yeah, get him in here. Let's see what he thinks about Rocky IV. So that's why you have to be Craig Michael Curtis, because he just got there first.
Just from a literary standpoint.
In the same way,
None of
Michael
his
J.
friends.
Fox has to be Michael J. Fox instead of Michael Fox.
Okay. All right. Rocky IV. What's your personal history with this movie?
Okay, so this is Nathan, podcast listeners. I was never Rocky was never a part of my, I guess, youth, but I was definitely aware of it, and I'm sure I'd watched each of them about halfway through. And so I don't know if I've seen Rocky 4 all the way through. I feel like I must have at some point, because it all seemed pretty familiar. So I would say I had a very tangential cultural awareness of Rocky, but no real kind of strong emotional connection one way or another. For some reason, Rambo ended up being a little more of a thing that I knew about and was into as a kid. Craig?
I think I had a similar experience. I remember as a youth feeling like the Rocky movies, I watched them and I kind of remembered them, but the ones I really remembered were the ones that had Mr. T and the Russian guy. They were the funnest of the Rocky movies, and the first two were kind of boring when I was a little kid. So I guess the wackier they got, the more I enjoyed them. And
Like James Bond movies.
yeah, in the sense, yeah, basically, it's when
lot
they
of
became
kids get into like Roger Moore era James Bond,
as
know,
opposed to
as
Sean
kids.
Connery or
Yeah.
George Lazenby.
You appreciate Sean Connery later, like you appreciate wine. It's like, ew, when you're young. It's
Exactly.
Like, oh, I'm now refined. These are what
When-
adults like.
When I rewatched Rocky as an adult, I remember being surprised that I liked the first two more than I remember liking them because they were genuinely good movies.
Well,
And
Rocky
then,
won Best Picture.
yeah,
Didn't it?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was like, it wasn't just a good Rocky movie. It was a genuinely good movie. It wasn't just a good sports movie. It was a good movie. And Rocky 2 was also very good. And then Rocky 3 got a little campy. And then
Is that the one with Mr. T?
that's the one with Mr. T, Clubber
And Hulk
Lang.
Hogan, right?
Which one? Yeah,
And
I was going to say, which one has Hulk Hogan?
That was also Rocky 3.
Okay.
That's where you start to get a little bit of the cheese factor
Yeah,
coming
off
off
in.
the rails.
Yeah, because they kept having to, one up themselves with each of these
Stallone
movies.
got more say in these movies.
I know he wrote and directed and starred in this. This was his
Yeah.
Orson Welles project.
Well, he did 2 and 3 as well. I think he directed 2 and 3 as well.
And he just wrote
I think
one?
So. He for sure wrote all of them. But I'm pretty sure. So he definitely directed Rocky 4, and I'm pretty sure he did 2 and 3 as well.
But we're not here to talk about 1, 2, or 3.
That's true.
Or 5, which I don't remember. I assume I saw it, but I have no real memory of it.
Yeah, I've got I don't know if I've seen Rocky 3 all the way through, but I have a pretty good vague memory of what happens. But like literally Rocky 5, I've got nothing there. Like it's like Karate Kid 3. I don't
File
even know
not
what's
found.
going on. Yeah. It's like Thor the Dark World. There's
Yeah.
like a huge blank space missing and I don't know what what happened.
Well, I'm positive that I've never seen any of the Rocky movies, except in the sense that I am a consumer of popular culture and
So-
therefore have seen the important bits of it.
You've seen
you know.
the Family Guy parody of the Rocky movie, and therefore you've seen the Rocky
The
movie.
run up
I
like
mean,
the stairs.
Like, I
and-
get that part, and I'm pretty sure that if I've seen all of it in like individual chunks when it's on TV. So interestingly, this is my son's like favorite movie. It's one of his
Really?
favorite movies.
How old is your son?
He's 7. I'm not a good parent. I never said. I never claimed to be good at this. Yeah, for some reason he really loves Rocky, and particularly Rocky 4. And he has a plush Rocky that he cuddles with. He has Rocky and Drago and Clubber Lang action figures, which are really hard to find, I have to say.
Are they vintage or are they like a remake sort of thing?
No, they're sort of like a they're not I don't know that they're like McFarlane toys. They're
They're
not
made for adults. They're high end.
Yes, and they're that's why they're so breakable. Like they're really articulatable. Like you can make the toes bend up 3 different ways when you're like really making them do the punches. But they break really easily. They weren't built to be like loved and played with by a child.
Right. They were meant to be cherished by adults who remember the time when they
Loved
could
by a child.
Yes. Well, these ones got unlucky, and they are loved by a child they're probably like, whose parent is going to let them watch Rocky 4? No one. Surely not. Never.
So my deep cut recommendation to Rocket would be Over the Top. If you want,
Oh, the
arm wrestling
Sylvester
one, which is
Stallone arm wrestling
completely
one.
ridiculous.
I'll have to recommend that
Yeah.
to him. And I think that I'm going to record a little bit at the end of speaking with Rocket about my son,
This
about
episode?
this movie, and see like what he likes about it. So stay tuned, because possibly after the credits, there's no credits, but after the conclusion of this podcast, you'll get to hear a little bit of 7-year-old Rocket and what he loves about Rocket, because he watched it with me. And he just sat next to me and he was like, "Mom, it's going to be sad." He's the worst about spoilers. He was like, just be aware something
But he
sad
cares
is going to
about your
happen.
emotional well-being.
You will be
does.
crying.
Well, and he knows that
a
I
little
cry
less
at
than you
everything.
think.
Yeah. And yeah, so that's my history with it.
So so this was 1985.
Mm-hmm.
Like the height. This was kind of like the height of what we thought of like the Cold War.
Yeah, and I don't know anything about the Cold War at all, like historically.
I just
no
remember
idea.
like the temperature, the vague sense, because again, like this movie came out and I was like 9 or so, but didn't really have. You don't really have like a strong sense of like
Political
politics unless it's so extreme.
You had a cluster of movies, though, in this second half of the 80s that were about war and peace and the Cold War and nuclear. Like Superman 4 was
yeah.
about,
Yeah.
we got
Red
circle
Dawn
around to that
was
one.
84.
Yep.
it was a genre, it was a mini genre of its own in the 80s.
Yeah.
So this was one of
The
them.
whole
And there was no need to worry, because
Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone is going to solve it for us.
He's got this.
Yeah, that's spoiler alert. His whole message is bridge building at the end. Let's all get along.
Yeah, and I don't know. There was something about the Russians and the Olympics. I don't know. I don't know enough about it to be like terribly interested. But turns out Russia was always a problem. Everyone.
It's interesting. So I was reading an article talking about like, because we just had so much like anti-communist propaganda / entertainment of like these movies about the Soviets and stuff like that, and apparently they really didn't have an equivalent. Like it wasn't as slathered on as we were doing it on our end.
So Rocky IV was actually Drago 2. They had just gotten the Ivan Drago series going with that, so they did the crossover and didn't go well for Drago.
But yeah, it's interesting to think of us as the ones that were way more whipped up into a kind of a fervor about this whole anti-communist stuff in our entertainment,
Yeah, that makes sense. That's interesting. So, just starting at the beginning of the movie, some things that were surprising to me.
The
Robots?
Robots, and because I think the robot is in a later Rocky movie.
Is it?
I think like maybe it's in.
I feel
the
like
one
I would
with
have remembered
Milo
that robot
Ventimiglia.
coming back.
Maybe it's in Creed. It's in something
not
else
in
that
Creed.
I've seen. Are you sure?
It could
I
be in
think it
Rocky
might be.
Balboa. I don't know.
I think it might be in Rocky Balboa. Anyway, I was aware of the robot, but not how terrifying it was. The thing that I thought was more scary and interesting was how much Rocky seems to invest in cake and cake making, and really like we're talking Ace of Cakes level cakes. I don't know if you boys are looking at me like you clearly were not giving any attention to the cakes.
I
But
was
he has a
distracted by
cake-
the robot.
He has a cake made that has Polly's like beautiful face on it.
His face.
Yeah, and the message is like eat your face, but like he didn't decorate that. He had that made, right?
I would assume.
And then like later that same day, or maybe time has passed, I wasn't quite sure. And I was folding laundry, so I wasn't super paying attention, but it's his anniversary with Adrian.
It's his almost anniversary.
It's like in a week.
Yeah. That is good.
He
I like
gives
that.
her a cake that's a boxing ring. No, it's their
Yeah, it's a boxing ring
with
with
their wedding.
it
she
looks
is
like a wedding cake.
Has
It's
our
got a-
wedding been? Has
Yeah.
our marriage been that bad?
It's got a guy in a tux and a woman in a wedding gown in a boxing ring with boxing gloves, like punching each other.
something like that.
So
Yeah,
it seems like a novelty wedding cake that he got for his anniversary.
I think he had that made.
You know what? Yeah, you know
That's
what?
not a standard item. That's not an in stock.
Well,
Oh,
the guy
yeah, no,
the
no.
guy
Yeah,
had two
absolutely.
Lamborghinis, so I assume he can afford to get a custom made.
He has a cake guy on
Yeah.
call.
His Lamborghini has the license plate Southpaw because there wasn't enough letters for Southpaw.
Yeah.
Southpaw.
Southpaw.
Well, or do we think that that's just like Rocky was like, hey, you make us say Southpaw. And they're like, Southpaw? Yeah, Southpaw. Southpaw? Yeah.
Are you sure?
get it.
Sir, can you write
I
that
can-
down? All right, I'm literally going to put what you just wrote down. Oh, boy. Yeah,
and he says to Adrian, "Open your prize," and I was just like,
That's
this
what
guy,
I remember
he
that
doesn't
too.
know anything except.
You know what's interesting is so
Boxing.
like when I was younger and I thought of like the robot and then the house, like oh man, he's it's like this is they've lost touch. He's way too rich now, and now that I see it older, it's like it to me it feels like almost like purposely being tacky. Like this is his tacky robot, like it's played almost as a knowing.
Rocky is
wink.
rich, and therefore he
This
buys...
is the crap that he buys.
Yeah.
Like it was never about the money to him. So the money
Right.
is just for toy, almost
Yeah,
childlike.
it should be ridiculous that they've got a robot. It's not supposed to be cool. It should be ridiculous.
It's what a little boy would buy if I have $1 billion, I'm going to buy a robot. I'm going to buy
I'm gonna
cakes
get a cake that has
every
your
day.
face on it, then my face on it. Everybody's gonna get a cake.
That's. I think that he's kind of got the mind of a child. So he's
Yeah.
a little boy. And
I mean-
what do you do when you have $1 million? Well, I'm going to get all this stuff. I'm going to get a mansion. And I'm going to get a robot, and I'm going to make a cake that looks like my brother-in-law's face, and I'll
Is
make
that his
a cake.
brother-in-law? Is that who Polly is?
Polly is Adrian's brother. So
Okay.
he's his
Well,
brother.
that solves one mystery.
Why he's here, because that mystery isn't solved yet.
Yeah, I didn't
He's got a
understand.
one-member entourage.
Yeah, why did he go to Russia? I couldn't figure it out.
And he doesn't like when they do go to Russia to train. Polly comes along for reasons unknown. He comes along because he needs someone to complain for him because he doesn't do any help training.
The reoccurring characters have all been dying off, and Polly is all they've got left at this point.
Yeah.
And it seemed to me like it was almost like you said, an entourage of one. Like Rocky was basically responsible because he was married to Adrian. He had to take care of Polly too. Like it was a package deal.
Yeah. Well, I think in the first movie, Polly was like buds with Rocky.
Yeah.
And there's-
Yeah. Because Rocky's muscle for hire, right? Like he's
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
and like shaking people down. And like Polly is like almost his like beat up pimp.
Yeah, his
What do you call
manager.
those? What do you call
Yeah.
those? Manager. There it is.
Well,
His beat up.
Okay, I get it.
They're called softpaws.
I said softpaw. What does it say softpaw? I said it should say softpaw. Okay, so then we see Drago and his wife Ludmilla, who are Dolph
Played by,
Lundgren
Bridget Nielsen.
and Bridget Nielsen. And my God, are they stunning. I mean, I don't know if we all know what happened to them later in life, but
Yeah.
like at this point,
they're
they're both stunning.
like platinum blonde, sculpted like Greek gods and goddesses. Yeah, they are clearly supposed to be the picturesque supermen coming out of
Yeah.
the Russian wilderness.
The uber mensch. But I mean, he's just like a gorgeous tree that
Yeah,
doesn't talk.
He's just a massive 6'5" human.
And I have some fun facts that I'll share when we get to the end, but I one of them was that they didn't want. I mean, Rocky's in charge of everything, right? So by Rocky, I mean Sylvester Stallone. But I guess the studio or somebody didn't want Dolph Lundgren because he was too big.
Yeah, he made him look like a dwarf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Sylvester
when you
Stallone's
see them
already
boxing
short.
each other, yeah, he towers over him. From a boxing standpoint, there's no way these two people would be. They're too different in weight class to be.
Well, and
Massive.
they get around that though because the fight with Apollo is an exhibition match and therefore doesn't have to follow any rules.
Right.
They're both exhibition matches,
Right.
Yeah.
which is one of the things we're talking about. A list of unbelievability clauses here. One of them is that the second match, the first match was just kind of for fun, which one of the reasons that Apollo, I guess we'll get into this a little bit later,
Apollo's
but
retired at this point.
yeah,
so-
he comes out of retirement
That's why I
and he's
understand
just
it.
kind of goofing around, really. And Drago is taking this deadly serious, and Apollo is like, no, we're just having fun, and whoever wins, wins. And then basically when the fight starts, he just gets pummeled. And in an exhibition match, you're really not supposed to be going full bore at each other. And Drago is not someone who, fuffs around.
He doesn't have two speeds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He
He has
has
one speed and it's I must break you. That's
which
all.
is the best line
And
in the movie.
He has one speed and two sentences. Those are because for a long time I was like, why won't they let him talk? Like his wife just does all of the talking, and then he did talk, and I was like, no, I get it.
He's
Don't.
his few lines. He only has a couple of lines,
Quiet down now,
they
baby.
are
You just
awesome.
stand there. Be sweet. But let's
Well, then also, they had kind of a reoccurring thing to where Rocky was kind of like working class, and everyone he fought were like big showmans, and so like Apollo Creed and Clubber Lang were the like huge personalities, and I think they just wanted to finally like not repeat that and have, you know, Dolph Lundgren be more stoic and like, you know, it's almost like first time we meet him, it's interesting. He's almost childlike, and we're taking his point of view and like what he's seeing in this Vegas show, and he's just kind of like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And we almost think like this guy is not going to be. We're almost
rooting for him.
Yeah, we're there. It's almost kind of like he's very quiet and he's looking around and he's kind of. All this is new to him, and he's not threatening at all. And then it snaps in the ring, and then he flips that switch, and then he goes
from
kill,
his
kill,
first
kill.
speed to
But they did that.
It goes from 0 to 1.
Yeah, but it felt very deliberate, like they were trying to make him.
I do feel bad for him. Like, I want to talk about this more towards the end than right now, but like, poor Drago.
He is they refer to him as a machine throughout the movie.
Yeah.
But he's a tool. He's being used as a propaganda tool by his trainers and his handlers, and as a tool in the movie to be the villain, because we need a villain for Rocky to beat. So he's
he just needs a hug and a hobby. Like, what if he really loves needlepoint? Something like that. Just
Building
give him
model, boats.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Or he's really into like RuPaul's Drag Race, or for the modern update, I'm saying, like, he just has one thing about him that makes him not a machine. but a human
Ironically,
being.
he loves to bake cakes.
Yeah. So that's
Wait,
where they're
we've
going to
got a
find their common
connection.
ground. I love it. So, and it seemed to me too, like Apollo, who instigated the first match, it was about him, and he says it basically, chasing the fame of his former glory.
Yeah, Apollo had been retired for 5 years at this point, and he was kind of feeling out of it. Like, it's like he missed the mountaintop,
Besides the Cold War theme of the movie, I think the real theme of it is, what does the champion do after his moment of glory is done? For Apollo, it's the thing that I will always be remembered for is
With
over.
his 3 Labradors.
Yeah.
Sitting in the pool throwing tennis balls, and he can't let go of the fact that the thing I'll be remembered for, I've already done. Everything else from here on out is just me being remembered for that. And he can't let go of that. That's why he tells Rocky in the fight, do not throw in the towel. This is how I want to go out.
Yeah, I think he wanted to die.
He wants to die. He wants to die in the ring.
Yep.
He wanted to,
totally agree with that.
number one, he wanted to win. Number 2, if he couldn't win, then he wanted
Yeah.
to die.
So Apollo had 2 speeds, win or die. As he's playing the Game of Thrones, right?
Right.
Basically, the game of boxing ring thrones. But I also thought it was super weird. Like, I got it. I think I got like where Apollo was at and everything. And I do wish that he could have also had a hug and a hobby and just like get into whatever former boxers do to still be famous.
Sitting in pools, throwing balls at golden retrievers.
Yeah, but like he needs to get a publicist and like make a line of like vodka that he sells, or
He should make some George Foreman grills.
Exactly.
Yeah, he needs to find a life post-boxing, because there's a point where you physically can't do it anymore.
I mean, there is. And that's what Rocky says, and then Adrian echoes it back to him, which is like, look, you're getting hit in the head.
That is an excellent point,
As
and
a
it is
job.
a correct point. And yet the movie decides that they want to turn it on its head and say, you know what? Rocky was basically trying to tell Apollo this in the first half of the movie up to the fight. And then after the fight, it goes the exact opposite way. Now Rocky's saying, you know what? Apollo is right. I shouldn't have to live and watch someone else fight. I should get into that fight and either win or die. And that's exactly what it is. And that's pretty much what he tells Adrian, who says, no, this is incredibly stupid. You've already seen how stupid it is. You literally just comes home from the funeral before he stops off and has a press conference where he announces his fight with Drago, which he is going to do for free.
Yep.
On Christmas.
On fucking Christmas.
In Russia.
He has a child.
Yes.
He has a child, and he doesn't care about living for that child or celebrating Christmas with that child. They leave the kid with the robot.
He basically
He
does
also
that.
has a new robot that he has to take care of.
Yeah, who's going to pay for that
Who's
robot?
going to feed that robot?
That poor robot.
is
Especially when
total
he's taking
bullshit.
Polly with him to Russia.
Yeah, no one's home with that kid. They show him like with cousins or something.
That's the great thing is that so Adrian ends up going to Russia too. And it's
After
like,
she says she
oh, okay, so it's just the kids and the robot.
Yeah. And so that's why he's going to become like a hopeless drug addict. He doesn't, but I also thought it was like in that conversation that Rocky has with Apollo. Apollo keeps calling him Stallion.
That was his nickname.
I know, but
don't
you think that that's like he's sort of dehumanizing him? Like, I'm only speaking to the boxer version of you.
Exactly.
I'm talking to the Stallion. I'm not talking to
Rocky.
to
my best friend Rocky Balboa. I'm talking to the Stallion, my competitor / my
Collaborator,
comrade in arms, the fellow warrior. And I think that's where Apollo is coming from. He can't let go of that life, that warrior's life, and he has sort of a almost a PTSD kind of thing where he can't adapt to being just a normal civilian anymore. He has to be in that combative arena.
He misses the fame and the purpose.
Yeah, and the punching in the head.
Yeah, being punched in the head.
You just have to love it. And then. I really hate that he didn't tell Adrian. You're right. He just was like, I'm at the funeral.
It's like literally goes from the funeral to the press conference.
You saw the cake?
Adrian doesn't know any of
Central
this.
cake.
I don't know why Adrian wasn't at the funeral, but apparently she wasn't because she wasn't seen there. And then the next scene is the press conference. And then he comes.
She was holding the camera.
She gets chased by reporters saying, "Oh, are you going with Rocky to Russia to fight Ivan Rocky?" She's like, "What the hell are you people talking about?" And then late at night, when the reporters have given up and gone home, Rocky finally comes driving into the parkway, and Adrian's like, you got something to tell me, Rocky? I got swamped by reporters today.
And she's right to be very mad.
Absolutely right. And then she's like, comes back. They have that argument. Then Rocky goes to Russia. We don't see Adrian again until she's on the plane coming in and says, "I've changed my mind, and it's right that you have flown out here to Russia to die or win against this guy who's already killed your best friend."
It's so dumb. It doesn't make any sense.
We probably missed the deleted scenes where it's like, okay, can you please finish filling out all the life insurance information?
Yeah,
I've come with these documents. Please sign this.
Nowhere in there do we see Adrian changing her mind. She just kind of pops in, and probably because there's really no argument to sway her. There's no reason for her to change her mind. So let's not even bother trying to show her changing her mind. She just shows up and says, "You know what? I'm with you because this is what I always do. I don't like you fighting, and then you're gonna fight. Well, I guess I'm with you then."
It was the most recent montage that probably convinced
Can we talk about the montage?
So there are 4 montages in this movie.
We need a montage. So the first one happens when he's driving away.
So that's the most insane one.
You shouldn't montage while driving. It's not safe.
No. So the first montage is
It's right after his fight with Adrian, and he decides
he
just got there late at night. They had the fight, and then he just gets in his Lamborghini, his Southpaw.
Southpaw.
So he gets in his Lamborghini, and what then ensues is nearly 4.5 minutes long, double the length of like a movie trailer. And it's literally like, it starts off like him just kind of getting, remembering the bad things and remembering the good things, but then it becomes a montage of the entire series.
And there's like strobe Drago in between.
The first 3 Rocky movies plus the first half of this Rocky movie.
And like some things that we literally just saw.
Like 2 minutes before.
I didn't forget it. I remember.
But yeah, and then later we've got 2 training montages.
Yes, and they are identical.
It's 2 training montages with only maybe about 3 minutes in between them. So it's training montage number 1, and then a scene, and then training montage number 2.
In between, Adrian comes back. That's the only thing that really happens between the 2 training montages. Yeah. And it's not like the first training montage. I think they did this. It must have been Rocky 3, maybe 2. But there was one where they were doing a training session, and it just wasn't going well. Rocky was kind of stumbling when he was doing jump rope or something. He wasn't quite getting it, and he was discouraged and stuff. And then someone comes back and kind of gives him a pep talk, and then they do another training thing
where he's doing
now he's in it.
They break the montages.
I think it must have been 3 because it was like Apollo Creed was his Adrian in that one, where he shows up and says, "You know what, Stallion, we're going to do this right." And then that's when they do the thing, and then now he's like, he wasn't fully invested in it yet. And then, but in this one, it's Rocky, that dynamic of both montages are exactly the same. It's Rocky doing earthy lumberjack and I'm okay stuff out in the Russian wilderness, running through 6 feet of snow and chopping down trees and throwing rocks into the air.
You know what's interesting is like,
and Drago is like in his tech lab with scientists around him.
They flip the whole so at the beginning it's like, I don't know, there always seems to be like the mythos of like the Russians being more earthy and poor and us using more technology and money, and they kind of flip it in this with Drago having like serums and computers and like all these different lasers and high technology, and then
It
Rocky
was like stuff that made him look like the Predator. Like they were like predatoring him.
yeah, and then he was being fashioned by a country, and then Rocky is like lifting logs and running in snow, and they kind of flipped that whole thing, making him kind of the underdog. But it's interesting, like in the beginning of the movie, like we get the reverse sense of like, oh, America's so decadent, all like during the whole James Brown.
Oh wow, we have to talk about that first fight.
James Brown is in this movie.
Yeah.
Yes, and he sings "Living in America" to completion.
Yes.
It's not like you get a clip of it and then like, okay, you get the idea, now let's get back to the movie.
Yeah.
No, you get the whole freaking song.
But it definitely feels excess, and it feels like, oh, geez, this is like the perception of America. And then all the Russians are kind of looking around. It's like, what the F is all this stuff?
Is this what they call boxing?
Yeah, and so he's set up as the underdog in that way. And then when we go to Russia, and then Stallone is like the fish out of water. He's the underdog now, But
I gotta say, I think this movie needed one more montage, and it was a montage of everything that Adrian was doing while Rocky was out running through snow. It's like her reading magazines.
That would have worked. It would have
playing
worked.
card games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crying alone in the bathroom.
You don't interpose. No, she's going to have to be like driving
It's
her
a montage
car
of
and
her crying
doing-
in different rooms.
watching the first three and a half movies from her perspective, all her scenes at the pet store in the first movie.
Yeah.
And, sitting in the hospital while Rocky's all beaten up by Clubber Lang.
she
in the
gets
third
in it.
She is
movie.
filling out the
She
paperwork.
gets in the
And
other
filling out
Lamborghini and is driving, and she has her own montage.
And it's a lot of her just like signing up to be his emergency
Right.
contact
Yeah,
in different scenarios.
Cleaning blood out of the bathroom.
So then we get to the fight.
So one thing.
Which fight?
So this is the shortest.
The second fight.
Okay, so we have to add that this is like the shortest of all the Rocky movies. It's
is it?
It's like an 89-minute movie practically. It's like 90 minutes. And there's like only like 6 story points in the whole thing. Mm-hmm. It's super, super stripped down.
And half as many montages. Like there's at least that many montages.
Songs filmed in their totality, and it is not a complex film. There's no subplots. It's just beginning to end. It's such a straight shot.
You have to invent your own subplots, like Polly and the robot, because they have an evolving relationship.
They sure do.
The gender reassignment of the robots.
Yeah,
Yeah,
at first,
and
happy
Flint's
birthday,
an
Polly.
egg.
And Polly hates this thing. And then, like, the very next scene, that's when Apollo comes to visit and tell them he wants to fight Drago. And then they're having this serious conversation about this fight. And do you really need to do this? Can't you just move on? And then Apollo starts to say something, and then he gets distracted because in comes the robot. It's like, what the hell is that thing? It just kind of comes out of nowhere. And Polly, that's my girl. And now she's got like this seductive voice. Polly.
But she's also like nagging him, isn't she? She's like, what am I supposed to do while you're out?
If I've told you
gallivanting?
before, I've told you 1,000 times.
Sent it to Italian wife.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, the fight.
The fight. Okay. Oh, wait. Can I say one thing? And so we get to the fight, the Drago fight.
Yes.
The thing.
The showdown.
The one of 2 plot points that happen in this movie.
Right.
The first and the second one.
The fifth of 6 plot points.
This movie has 2 speeds.
Yeah.
Just go with me on this. So here's the thing. If Drago is so unbeatable, he kills Apollo.
In like a round and a half, yeah.
But Rocky, who's smaller and arguably worse at boxing, can go beat him, then doesn't that make Apollo look bad. I don't think it avenges him.
It
so
really
much
does. It
and
kind of
makes
diminishes him in the boxing world. And
I
remember,
bet Apollo's feelings were hurt after that fight.
Yeah, he's like,
yeah,
sure.
the ghost
you
of
can
Apollo.
fucking do it? I guess I didn't carry enough logs through snow.
Yeah.
But he didn't, though. He didn't train at all or anything, right? Is that what we're meant to understand? Is that he
well,
didn't really
no,
train?
we just didn't see his montage of training or his
What if we
multiple
had?
montages.
He was in great shape. He had just...
His trainer went after his trainer. It was weird. The first fight.
Is that who that other guy is?
Yeah,
that third guy?
I think his name is
he's
Duke.
in Rocky Balboa too. Yeah,
But he that was Apollo's trainer, and he was more of a level head. You don't really see him until after the fight. Him yelling, "Throw in the towel, Rocky!" Because Rocky,
Yeah, this is all Rocky's fault.
Is the manager? He's really seeing his friend literally get killed out there, and if you throw in the bloody towel, the fight's over. And he didn't do
Is
it
that
because
real?
yeah, that's an actual thing.
Okay.
It
I
is.
think
It is.
boxing is super dumb.
Well, that's another argument, and that's
We don't
also
have to get
a
into
one-sided Adrian argument where you're going to have a change of heart for no particular reason.
I guess
but,
so.
Yeah, Rocky is.
let's convince you with a montage.
Rocky can end the fight by throwing in the towel, but Apollo told him not to, so he doesn't. And then
Well,
one punch and he's down, and he's dead.
Rocky's
And
very simple, childlike, completely addled by
Yeah,
Punch's brain.
he told me not to.
He said, "I'm
I couldn't throw in the towel."
Well, yeah, no,
But
he was definitely
there's-
agonized over the decision. I think he did it because it's really what he wanted.
Yeah, but there's no disguise. Like clearly.
Plus, he
Duke,
borrowed his lawnmower and still, like a year ago, and still hadn't gotten it back.
Well, the real problem with that first fight was that Apollo was still distracted by Paulie's robot. I think that was just stuck in his head. Like
He was
doing this living in
thinking-
America dance, and it's like in his head, like
He was
why
like,
does Paulie call that robot my girl?
he was thinking, when I
What are they
leave,
doing
I'm
when
going
they're-
to get my own robot.
Where do I get a robot like that with the mantis head? But the trainer was like yelling, throwing the towel. So it's clear he thought Rocky should have saved his life. Apollo's wife. Also, stop the fight. Last time we see her is at the funeral. She never shows up again.
Well, I wouldn't either if I was her. I'd be so pissed at Rocky. I'd be like, Rocky, you dick.
Give us a scene where she like slaps him at the end of the funeral, like you killed him.
Like in Jaws or something. Yeah.
A little
Maybe that's
emotional
what happens in
release
Rocky V.
because she never shows up again. So I guess she like just.
Well, she shows up in Creed.
Yeah, that's
Does
what I
she?
was going to
Oh,
ask.
I assume she would because she would be.
It's a different actress, but yeah.
Well, but yeah, he comes back and now I'm going to train Rocky. I assume, like in that Rocky Drago fight, he would be the one to not throw in the towel.
Yes,
And maybe
you're
that
right.
was his idea. It was like, I'm going to get revenge. I'm going to train this guy. He's going to go in there and get his butt killed. I'm not throwing in the towel. I'm just going to stand there like this
Oh,
while
wow. So it was
while
like-
Adrian's yelling, "Throw in the towel," and Paulie's like, "Throw in the towel, stop the fight," and
But-
he's gonna like.
Okay, he says, though, the trainer says, they're standing in the snow, and the trainer says, I wrote it down. He says, Apollo was like my son, which made me go, wait, how old are you? Like, I couldn't figure it out. And then he says, you're the one, he says to Rocky, you're the one, you're going to make sure he didn't die for nothing. And it's like, no, but he did, though.
How are you going to accomplish that? Even if you win, like you said,
He did, though.
yeah,
He died for nothing.
you'll beat the guy who killed Apollo, and that diminishes Drago, and therefore diminishes Apollo because he's the guy who got killed by this guy who lost to an aging Rocky Balboa.
And it sort of shows like, oh, Apollo just didn't want it bad enough. And I
didn't want to live bad enough.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think he did.
He wanted it too badly.
But there was this also, like you were talking, Nathan, about the flip where like we start in America, and America is the place of excess and too much and full length James Brown songs and dancing girls and all this stuff. Then it flips. We go to Russia. They've got all the technology. They're basically turning it into a machine, and Rocky's the underdog. Well, there are 2 points also in the fight where Rocky is like, he's not a man, like he's not human, and then he punches him and he bleeds. Well, he is a man. He can be beat. And in that same moment,
Yeah, and then you
Drago's
switch
like,
back to Drago, and he's saying
He's
in
not a
Russian, he's not a man, he's a machine of some kind. And it's like they
he's like a troll who lives
Yeah.
under a bridge.
where they have opposing viewpoints where Drago went into the fight thinking Rocky's just another American boxer who I'm going to destroy because I am required to, while Rocky is like, this guy is a machine who cannot be broken. He is just like made of steel. And Drago says at one point, he is made of iron. Punching him is like a piece of iron or something along those lines. And so,
Yeah, it's the cool hand Luke philosophy. Just if you never stop fighting, eventually you win.
It's tough. There's no way to. So I made a list of things I found slightly unrealistic in Rocky IV.
Okay, let's hear it.
But one of them is you see Sylvester Stallone fighting Dolph Lundgren, and there's no way that he could win.
There's
the
no
height,
way.
The height distance and the arm distance is so massive that basically what they end up doing is they make most of the end fight a montage to kind of cover up and hide the seams.
you know what their physical difference reminded me of was the old Punch-Out game.
Kicking a bunch of
hobbits. The old Nintendo game Punch-Out. You were Little Mac, and you were this tiny
yeah.
little character, and then you would be fighting like King Hippo and all of these other big caricatured boxers, and they would be like 3 times your size, especially Mike Tyson at the end. You're just this huge gaping, and you were this little tiny guy wearing a black T-shirt, and you were just the size difference was so vast that it was like, yeah, you're like a little elf fighting.
Yeah, Little Mac.
But he shouldn't have been able to win.
Yeah, and the problem with the ending, I feel like
It's like having a child fight Drago.
Yeah.
And fighting children is easy.
Yeah, it is.
And the problem is that the main fight gets so montaged that there's never really the human aspect that they have in all the other Rocky movies, to where there's like a human element that turns the tide. They don't really ever explain like what is the thing that turns the tide, like even strategically from it's like from a boxing point of view. We've already established that, Drago hits like over 2 times stronger than the average boxer. And so he just hammers Apollo Creed. But when it gets to Rocky, he's just strangely resistant, and they end up going like 10, 12 rounds.
I think they go all the way to the end. They go to the 16th round.
And
they go the distance.
There's not really any huge physical damage at Rocky at this point. At this point, he become a superhero.
Basically,
he should have like
bag.
An orbital collapse.
He should be all bloody and purple all over his body, but yet he's still taking it. And they don't really explain how he's able to kind of close the distance and make the size not be a huge deal. He just kind of wins out of like superhero power.
Because it also doesn't explain how he could do enough damage to Drago to knock him out.
Yeah.
He's chopping Drago down, like cutting down a tree. They make the metaphor where in the training montage you see Drago sparring with a guy and he knocks the sparring partner out, and then at the same time Rocky's chopping down a tree. So that's how you take a guy down, is you chop down a tree.
So
and
much
then they say,
metaphor, Sylvester Stallone. So
like,
many beautiful poems, visual poems you're writing for us.
It's a haiku.
But yeah, I wrote a haiku too, by the way.
Oh, great.
Yeah. But let's hear your 5 improbable things.
So my 5
this
improbable.
This is your haiku, yes.
This is my 5. Okay, we've already touched on most of these. The robot, would you say the robot was too sexy? I would. So that was more for humor. Too many montages, obviously.
Too many or not enough?
How is that?
I would say too many.
I want to see a montage of the kid home alone.
I would say we would have a plethora of montages.
Yes. Okay, but wouldn't you want to see like a Home Alone of Rocky's son by himself with the robot, where burglars are coming because they know Rocky's in Russia, so he's got to defend the Balboa house.
Yeah, I got that.
That would be great.
Keep going.
The Russians cheering Rocky's name at the end of the fight.
That is the most. It's. Have you ever?
Yeah, it's not even about like America versus Russia. It's like
the home team is the team you cheer for, unless you're
Yeah.
You don't have, if you're rooting for your team and the other team is playing well, I'm going to root for them now.
But I think in the first fight, the audience starts cheering for Drago. Like, they boo him at first, and then I think they're going, Drago, Drago.
In the first fight, I was mistaken because I thought at one point they were cheering Drago, but they were cheering Apollo. So
were they? movie?
They were, I assume, because otherwise the exact same thing happens where the crowd decides.
Well, that was my read.
Yeah, he killed our former heavyweight champion.
I think that's what happened. Like they're showing that in both things, the boxer won over with their superior skill. I thought that was the point.
I don't think that an American crowd is going to cheer.
So that was on my list.
I think
found
it's
that
just
to be
that,
illogical.
I think the Russians are a little more weak-willed about their team. They're like they're more about getting on the bandwagon with the winning team.
I think they're
so
going to be
like,
fined and taxed if they cheer against Drago.
No, because
That
you
guy
have
who stood up and clapped, he got shot in the head after this.
no,
Immediately.
the Gorbachev. It was a Gorbachev stand-in. He was like the leader of the Soviet Union, who was so moved by Rocky's.
That's number 5 on my list.
Number 5
is world peace.
And at the end, they
Through a
give us
boxing
speech.
match.
It's like, hey, did you forget about Apollo? Just real quick. I know you've been hit in the head a lot. But did you forget that you came here because of Apollo? Because you're not saying anything about Apollo. You should maybe just throw in one quick.
Yeah.
And
I really hope.
it's too bad Apollo's still dead.
Yeah, that.
Good night, everybody.
Creed from Creed doesn't watch this movie because he doesn't mention Creed at all.
Nope.
At the end.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, is that everything?
Yes. Well, we covered so much. We covered the montages. We covered
Those sexy
the sexy
robot.
robot.
Sexy robot.
I'd like to add that being a boxer is a very dangerous profession.
Oh, yeah, it's
You
a very stupid thing to do.
Don't do it for free.
No.
And if you're going up against an opponent who killed his last opponent,
His last and only.
and you're going to do it in Russia, and you're going to do it on Christmas, and yeah,
At
exactly.
least do it for minimum wage.
Yeah, even if it's like, okay, well, I'm going to donate all of my proceeds to charity, then do
or
that.
to Apollo's family,
Yeah,
or
maybe
like
that.
to your family when he dies.
Rocky just went up to them after the funeral and said, "Oh, I want to fight you." Well, we're going to do it in Russia. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, we're going to do it on Christmas. Okay.
he was clearly there by himself. No one was
yeah.
representing him.
We don't have any money to
Do you
give
have
you.
a manager or an agent?
Yeah, okay. I already got my
They're
Lamborghini
like,
and
do
my
you have
robot.
a parent? Do you have a parent you can call? And then I did think for a moment, I really like the way that Rocky seemed to turn Apollo from an enemy to a friend. And I sort of was like, maybe he and Drago will be friends. And I thought
Drago is the new Apollo. He's the new guy he hangs out with.
And they're like, well, it's
That'd be
Stallion.
great if they
started
the tradition of Creed that they come out with Drago.
Drago. But,
that
so
would
here's
be
what I
cool.
found out. Because I was like, oh, we should each imagine what Drago did after this. Give it the Adam Reaney twist. Well, here's the thing. It already has an Adam Reaney twist.
What?
Because Sylvester Stallone has said that what happened to Drago after this is that he became addicted to drugs and committed suicide.
Ugh.
Yay! So it was a happy ending after all.
You know what would have been the best, though, is if Stallone said, or Rocky said, I'm not going to do it for money, but whichever side has to disarm the nuclear weapons.
Yeah, the loser has to dump all their nuclear weapons into the North Sea.
I'll do it for free.
For all...
But at the end, if we're both
and then he
still
ends up
alive,
bargaining them down to just 5% of their nuclear arsenal.
I want a 20-second hug. Okay. So
just world peace in one section of the world.
here's my fun facts that I got from the IMDb. Apparently, Carl Weathers and Dolph Lundgren did not get along. And maybe it was just really method acting. But at one point, Dolph Lundgren threw Carl Weathers across the boxing ring.
Across the
You
world.
see that
Across the entire world.
There's a lot of breach of boxing etiquette in both fights, where there's shoving and tackling and
rolling on the ground.
and throwing at each other and punching after the bell. And I guess that's why they were non-sanctioned bouts, because they were fast and loose with the rules there.
Also, and this I think answers our supposition that Rocky should not have been able to win this fight. For some of the shots, Sylvester Stallone wanted them to really be punching each other. So he was really punching Dolph Lundgren. Dolph Lundgren was really punching him. Mm-hmm. And he had to be airlifted to a hospital.
Stallone?
Because he got punched in the chest.
Who do you think was Dolph Lundgren?
I just wanted to be clear because dangling modifier there.
Sylvester Stallone got punched in the chest so hard that his heart swelled. And that was just for funsies.
That was so. Are you saying that the fact that Rocky beat Drago is unrealistic just because Dolph Lundgren knocked Sylvester Stallone into the hospital when they were fake fighting?
When they were just playing. and we're friendly. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
And you can see a lot of air punches in the second fight. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of punch, and it's like a foot away from his head.
I'm sure he was like, "Oh, okay, so
all right,
I really loved what we got there. A lot of good stuff. Here's the thing. Don't punch me anymore."
Yes. As the director, I'm going to ask that, let's try it a different way. We'll see. We're going to CG your fist into my face. I'm sure we can do that. So just kind of...
Is CG a thing yet?
Throw your fist...
Oh, well, just roll with me.
They've got a robot babysitter, so a sexy robot babysitter. Okay, and then did you guys know? You probably know. I mean, maybe this is a thing that everybody knows, but I'm not sure if everybody knows it.
This has the record of most oily men in a movie.
300.
Yeah, that's immediately what my mind was. No, that Dolph Lundgren is a genius.
Oh,
like
yeah,
in Mensa? Yeah.
You knew that? Yeah, okay.
No, go ahead. I knew that he almost went to MIT and he had a... is it engineering degree?
Chemical engineering from the Royal Institute of Technology in the early 80s, so he was already...
This was him at this time.
The second one from the University of Sydney in 1982, also before this movie. And he's a third level black belt in a certain kind of karate that I'm not going to try. He was already a genius by the time he was in Rocky IV.
So he really was like the most interesting man in the world.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't much to look at, though. I mean, most geniuses are not bad looking.
Craig's using a sarcastic head.
Oh, I use I'm using the sarcastic font in my voice.
And he was Swedish.
Not Russian, and therefore unrealistic. They should have had Sean Connery play Drago instead.
Okay. Anything that we didn't get that you boys need to point out?
Paulie was useless, except for one. There was one moment when I thought, okay, now it's okay for him to still be here in this movie. And it was during the Drago fight, and Rocky's back in his corner, and he says, I'm seeing 3 of them. And Paulie says, punch the middle one.
Yeah.
And
Apparently,
all right, that's a good enough
that's a
quip.
Real thing that a boxing man said to his boxing man.
It's
boxing employee.
But it's a good enough quip for Paulie can be in the movie now because he did nothing during the training sequences. I mean, the other guy, and I think his name is Duke.
He sat in the
was like training him
in the
Paulie,
rickshaw, right?
Didn't
he sit in the thing
the cart?
Yeah.
No, that was
the horse cart.
That was a pile of logs. But I could see how you can mistake that for Paulie.
Adrian was in there, and everybody was in there, and he was lifting it up.
Adrian's there for moral support. The other guy's there to actually train him. But Paulie is just kind of there, and like he was there from the start. Mm-hmm. So there's really no reason for him to be there except to and he does have the moment where. Before the fight starts, he says, "If I would never amount to much. If I was ever going to be someone, if I could take a zipper and unzip my skin, I would be with that robot a lot more."
Jesus,
just rein it in, Paulie.
I would want to be you, and so there's like a touching moment before the fights where Paulie wishes he was Rocky.
It wouldn't have been great if he was like, "If I could unzip my skin and become anyone, I would become that guy." Because Jesus, look at him.
I mean,
a double master.
English, so
okay.
Right.
Actually, he did, but
not super great. Not super great. What is your deep cut recommendation?
Okay. Well, you go first.
Me? No, I don't want to go first. Do you want to do yours?
So I've got 2, but if so the most obvious one would be Creed, because this is basically the prequel to Creed. Like if you wanted to do a double pairing, this would be the one, because it's so much about the effects of really the first half hour, or maybe the whole movie, but the first half hour of
because we forget all about Apollo as soon as
so does Stallone. So that would make a good double header.
I think so.
And so if you've already seen Creed, my second deep cut recommendation would be the TV show The Americans, which kind of deals with
that's good.
The Russian-American conflict, but from the Russian point of view of spies who are in America.
That's a good recommendation. Well done. I'm going to piggyback off that a little bit. I'm gonna take this a few degrees away and say that I recommend Black Panther.
Okay, yeah.
Because of course Michael B. Jordan is in
everything.
And thank God for that. He's in You guys take the robot. I will have Michael B. Jordan.
Oh,
he is, of course,
man.
Creed in Creed, and he is Killmonger in Black Panther. So go see Black Panther. It's a really wonderful movie, and Michael B. Jordan is really good in it.
He's in it, and that's
Krissy was
enough.
distracted for a moment.
It was just like, I pictured. Never mind.
Staring
you
dreamily
go.
into space.
You talk now, Craig.
All right.
I'm on a podcast.
Oh, hello.
Craig.
How long was I out?
I had to.
You missed a full montage.
Oh no.
Here's what you missed.
I also had two. I guess I'll just pick one of them.
Does that mean I need to pick a second one?
No, that's right.
No, I'm going to pick one because it's
do too.
a
I
deep
don't
cut recommendation, not plural.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with another Cold War era sports movie, Miracle. It's about the 1980 Winter Olympic U.S. men's hockey team who were severe underdogs against the mighty Soviet hockey team, and starring Kurt Russell, who I know is a table favorite.
He was on the last episode.
Friend of the pod.
Friend of the pod, Kurt Russell and his hair.
It's a good movie. Watch it.
All right. Well, nice work. I think everyone did really well this week. Okay, so what are our Rocky IV ratings on a scale of one montage? Let's say one montage to 5 montages, of which there were that many.
Oh, I've got to do
movies.
math now.
Yeah. What do you give it?
I'm gonna go. So there weren't any really glaring back then they thought of this different, other than the whole geopolitical America versus Russia thing. But just in terms of just raw, how much did I enjoy it? I'd probably have to give it, out of 5 montages, I'd have to give it 3, which would be 6 out of 10 in our normal. Just out of personal preference. I thought it was fine. It was fun. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the joy factor, it was probably only a 6 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
I would agree for the most part. It's campy and over the top, and it's very simplistic plot. But the serious stuff is also pretty campy, but they take themselves. It's not like they're doing it as a joke, as sort of they're being ironic when they say, well, this is better than, going to war with Russia, that we're just fighting. They're trying to be serious, and that's what makes it kind of endearing. Mm-hmm. And so I'd give a roughly a 3 out of 5 montages with a sexy robot chaser. So say 3.5.
You love that robot.
I love that robot.
I'm going to put it exactly in the middle. I'm going to give it 2.5 montages. Or 5 on the scale of 10, because it just I feel unchanged by having seen it.
Unmoved.
I could have walked away from it at any time.
You have the same feelings about the Soviet Union as you've ever had before.
Exactly.
Did not change your mind.
Nope.
Didn't move the needle.
Mm-mm. It just was okay, that's something I spent time doing. So,
So you weren't like the pseudo Gorbachev at the end who stands up and
The
applauds.
slow clap.
no, because I was like, I get it, and I'm not gonna judge you for liking.
You could tell in his
boxing,
eyes
but...
that he was just like a puppy when Rocky was slurring those American words. You can change.
Yeah, I can't
can
understand what
change.
he's saying.
Everybody can change.
Rocky, any thoughts on Apollo? Ooh. They punched the Apollo out of my brain. So yeah, I just think it was meh. It was okay. I didn't I actively disliked Young Guns.
Right.
And I totally love Overboard.
Yeah.
So this was just okay. I saw it.
Look, we're not professionals. We're not experts.
What do you mean? Does that seem unprofessional?
No, I'm just saying we're all over the place. It's ultimately just what we enjoy.
Yes,
I think so.
Movie acknowledged.
Okay, very well. On that note.
Yeah, after seeing Rocky IV, it's yes, I have now seen a movie.
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's have you seen Rocky IV? And I go, yeah, I've seen it.
Movie acknowledged.
I saw it.
Today I saw one more movie than I'd seen before.
I'll tell you what, I would go
One
back.
movie, please.
Which one? Whatever you got. Not Young Guns.
Something with Roman numerals, please.
I would watch just the training montage part Like, I would just watch that on YouTube.
I bet there's a supercut of all Rocky training montages.
I'm
And it's
gonna put
20
that,
minutes long.
and I want to watch it. What are you telling me? That would be the best thing ever to watch it on the treadmill. Absolutely.
That's pretty good, yeah.
I give the montages a 10 out of 10. But the movie that wraps them
First
brings it
class
down.
montages. Well, the first montage, but yeah, the training montage I'll go with.
Okay, so of course, you can find Krissy at nctphoenix.com, at the actual National Comedy Theater, and nothing, and both those places. You can find Nathan at
Squishy Studios at all the social medias.
Craig Curtis at CraigMichaelCurtis.com, CM Curtis on Patreon.com, and on Facebook as Craig Michael Curtis.
and you can find Most Excellent Pod. You can find the Most Excellent Podcast on its new Facebook group. It has its own,
Yep,
not
we've got
group,
our
it's
own,
not a group, it's a page.
It's a Facebook page.
So there's a Facebook page that's just dedicated to Most Excellent Podcast, Most Excellent 80s Movie Podcast,
Yeah, so
and then there's
please
the group.
like us there.
Yes, please do. Share, Instagram, all that fun stuff.
And please leave us a iTunes review or on Stitcher, and we will read them on the air.
Yeah, leave us a haiku about one of these movies.
Oh, did we have a Rocky IV haiku?
I did. Here it is. Boxing is so dumb. Dolph Lundgren is a huge man. Punch, punch, get punched, punch.
Aw. No robot.
No robot, sorry.
Right.
The robot-
Punch, no robot.
The robot didn't stick with me the way it stuck with you.
Clearly.
Um,
I'm
and thank you for listening. As always, when you're out there in the world, be excellent to each other. And
I must break you.
hey, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. I have a very special guest. What is your name?
Rocket.
And how old are you, Rocket?
7.
And what's your favorite movie?
Rocky 4.
Okay. Do you want to talk to me a little bit about Rocky?
Sure.
Okay. What is it that you like so much about Rocky?
I don't know. He just gave me like a feeling.
What was the feeling?
Like the first time I saw it, I wasn't really into it.
Okay.
Like after I watched it a little more, it was great.
Okay. So what's the feeling that you have when Rocky wins?
Excitement. He makes me feel inspired to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you like about Rocky number 4?
It's about how when Apollo got killed, and Rocky tried to get back for his friend.
So what happens?
So what happens is he goes to Russia on Christmas,
Okay.
leaving a kid with a robot.
All right. But why do you like Drago so much?
Because I don't know, really. I like most of the people that Rocky fights.
Yeah. What do you like about them?
They all have confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives me confidence to do anything.
Oh, wow. Okay. What are some of your other favorite movies besides Rocky 4?
Rocky 2?
But what, just in general, it doesn't have to be a Rocky movie. What are some other movies that you like?
I like Pirates in the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
I like Star Wars.
Okay.
And I like other boxing movies.
What other boxing movies?
Creed.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell me about Rocky and Drago?
Yeah, I want to tell you a little more about Drago. I think they were just using him to embarrass Rocky because he's like a super strong guy. They're using him for evil, to kill to beat people up, to show that Russians are good, Drago is good, and Rocky isn't. Neither Apollo the winning. And Drago could do other things like be a speedrunner, and go to movies, he could actually do anything if they didn't mess with him.
Who's they?
The people who made Drago fight.
Okay. So you think maybe he would have had other interests besides fighting?
Yeah.
What do you think he would have liked to have for a job besides boxing?
Helping people, actually helping people box.
Helping other people box?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think happened to Drago after the end of Rocky IV?
I actually don't know. I think he got a little embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
And so he didn't do boxing anymore and did what he wanted to do.
Okay. Well, thanks for talking about Rocky with me.
Be excellent to each other.
And
party on, dudes.
Hey, Nathan.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, so exciting news.
I heard something exciting is happening.
We're going to do a live episode.
What?
Yeah, that's right.
So you can see us and not just hear us?
That's right. You can see us and hear us
I'm going to have to put on pants.
And we'll see you and hear you if you want to be seen and heard.
That'll be great. What's our movie?
The Wizard, 1989.
With Fred Savage?
The Wizard with Fred Savage.
So that's the one with it's kind of like a love letter to Nintendo, and
it is like product placement for Nintendo.
Product placement, the movie, the Power Glove.
Oh, it's so bad.
Was it Super Mario 3?
I think so. Yeah, because warp whistles, all that good stuff. And it's also before we knew what autism was. So come see what the 80s thought about non-neurotypical children. It's good, but it's a bonkers movie. Watch it before you come.
Yeah, we're not going to be screening it at the thing, because then we'd have to pay the people who made The Wizard.
And you'd have to pay us.
Yes, but it's available on all the streaming platforms.
It is for a reasonable rental, and this event is free. It's free for you to come, hang out with us, participate in our podcast, but you can, and we recommend that you reserve your seats so you know that you won't get here and find the whole place.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun,
full.
And then hopefully we can have a lot more live shows like this. And if it's a failure, we'll never have one again.
You'll never know. We'll run out into the audience ourselves and pretend
we promise,
to be people.
if it's a failure, we promise we'll never do another.
I promise no such thing. If it's a failure, I'll do at least 3 more. But yes, so if it's a huge success, then maybe next time we will screen the movie and make it a whole afternoon. So this one is August 19th at 2 p.m.
Screen it on the sly in a van in the parking lot.
That sounds creepy and dangerous.
It's got to be a creepy van-themed movie we can tie that in with.
There's plenty of creepy hitchhiking in this movie. Great. So please come see us August 19th, 2 p.m. You can make your reservations at nctphoenix.com or call 602-374-5638 to find out more.
Yep. Feel free to tune out of our podcast now or listen to the trailer for The Wizard.
2 tickets to California, please.
It's $226.
Well, we only have $27.30. What does that get us?
Nowhere.
Corey's taking his brother Jimmy on a ride.
These 2 boys already traveled more than 80 miles across the state.
We've hired someone to find him.
What's his problem? He's just shy.
But Jimmy's got a secret.
You got $50,000 on Double Dragon?
That could make this the ride of their lives.
Look at him. He's a wizard. He's headed for the video championship.
This guy?
What is that?
Power glove.
Yeah, well, just keep your power gloves up front, all right?
With a touch of romance.
I am not kissing a boy.
And a ton of trouble.
That's huge.
We're too late.
4 feet down! Sorry about that. You maniac!
They'll get there any way they can.
Jimmy! Here we come!
It's Jimmy! It's Jimmy!
Come here! Hey!
Now, what do you think you're doing to him?
All his life, you've been telling him to do what you want him to do. How about once you ask him what he wants to do, huh?
Now,
Video Armageddon.
it's going to take a lot of guts,
You can do it!
a little magic,
You're the best!
and the wizard, Fred Savage. The Wizard.
Fred Savage billed ahead of Christian Slater and one of the bridges is.
If you secretly wish that Over the Top was actually them playing video games, this is the movie for you.
So join us. Yay!